Okay, it is Wednesday, February 9th, 6:30 p.m. I'll call the Economic Development Commission meeting to order. We have a few guests with us today for the first couple agenda items, so it's exciting. And I'll just in the interest of time for them so that they're not on the call late, we'll start with Michael Basanti is on. He recently presented to the select board and spoke about his new endeavorment, the Yais Kitchen. Sorry, Michael.
Yais Kitchen. Yes, Yais Kitchen.
Thank you. So I'm sorry, Michael. One thing I didn't do is from the EDC on the call, we have myself, Renee Deli, Sandy Allerhead, Laura Parker, and Denise Luciano. So my apologies. I skipped.
That's okay. Hi, everyone.
Let's do that. And Michael, I don't know if you've met Paul DiGiuseppe. He's the town's planning director, economic.
Hi, Paul. How are you?
Good, Michael. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Nice to meet you all.
Nice to have you here, Michael. Thank you so much for joining us.
Of course. Thanks for the invitation, Renee.
Yeah, of course. I think I mentioned in my email, one of the things that we want to do is really just to support you and anything that you would need. And, we're here as a partner for you for the town, and anything that we can do, we're willing. But we're really interested in hearing about the restaurant that's going to be opening and your timeline and anything else that you want to share with us.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. I have to say, I've dealt with cities as big as Boston in the past, and I've dealt with small towns like Sharon and Norton, and even in Cambridge. The experience so far has been very, very positive. I found everyone to be very helpful and informative, and lots of doors open and good communication. So far we've had a really great experience. So I thank you, and I'll be sure to thank everybody else over at Town Hall and the fire department. So far have been just really great and easy to deal with, and very welcoming. So I appreciate that. So first I'll say it's called Yai's Kitchen. So Yai, we'll start with a little Thai lesson here. Yai is the Thai word for grandmother, and my wife, who is the chef, learned everything from her mom and from her grandmother. So that being said, what we are doing in the menu we're creating and the food we're going to be serving is really authentic. It's not American Thai food. It's real Thai food. It's Thai food that you get on the street in Bangkok or Chiang Mai or in a restaurant if you're just kind of wandering around the Thai countryside. So the menu is going to be really small, 10 or 20 things maybe, a few noodle dishes, some really great curries. They make everything from scratch. And we're almost done. I don't know if anybody has peeked their head in the window over the last couple of weeks, but we're 95% of the way there, and done and ready to go. We've had the walls painted and the furniture is in, the new floor was put down, and we refitted the counter that was there before. Trying to get an electrician in there to make a few changes, but as you guys all probably know, getting tradesmen these days, everybody's so busy, it takes a little time. So we're moving along with regard to that. I want to say our timeline is less than a month. We're hoping to be ready to go by that very end of the month. My wife is hoping to be in there week after next to get the woks turned on and get start practicing some recipes. We have the sign out right now, so that's being designed and developed to fit with the rest of the theme of the building. We're looking for help. If any of you guys are looking for part-time work, let us know. We're always looking for good people to join our team. If you have any teenage kids at home, you want to get out of the house on a Thursday night, send them our way. But yeah, that's kind of the the update as to where we are. We have a great landlord. Larry's just been so helpful and so supportive. The neighbors in the strip there have all come in to say hi, and people are coming in the door thinking we're open already. So we're excited.
Michael, can I ask, where are you?
So we're right across the street from the fire department in that little strip there.
You mean I should have known? But
yeah. Yes, Paul. Right across the street, the old Chinese restaurant there. Yeah.
So, and
So it's,
Michael, is it takeout only, or are there some seats for dining?
there's a small dining room. We have about, I want to say 18 seats. So there's some seats in the window. We ended up putting in some window seats so you can kind of look out into the parking lot. And then there's a few tables inside, but it's pretty small. I think the capacity was 18. So we made sure we stayed within that range.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're excited.
And hey, do you have an online presence as well?
We do. My wife started this whole thing was born of the pandemic. I mean, we're both restaurant folks. I've been in the restaurant business for 30 years, in mostly Boston, Beacon Hill, Cambridge. And I had a consulting business that really got sidelined when the pandemic started. So my wife and I were kicking around some ideas, and we said, well, let's start cooking some Thai food in Sharon and see how it goes. And one of my clients has a restaurant here, and he was closed on Sunday. So we started cooking there on Sunday nights, and it was like out of control. She was selling, 150, 200 meals on a Sunday night in Sharon. I mean, it's not a big, there's not a lot of people. So there was a real, like, this demand we found for Thai food and authentic Thai food. So we did that for about a year, and then we got a food truck. We had the food truck on the road late summer, and into the fall. And that was like wild. I mean, it was wild. And we stayed mostly in Sharon. We would go into people's driveways. So, we had the whole thing redone, and we got it inspected, and we got all of our permits and licenses, and we would go to people's driveways, and there would be a line for like 2 or 3 hours in this little food truck in Sharon. So, then we really started to think like, wow, we got something here. Like, people really appreciate this. And she was really pushing the kind of the culinary envelope for what you would expect from, a Thai place. I mean, lots of things that she does you would not find on a traditional, typical Thai menu, but people really appreciated it. So we put the feelers out for a brick and mortar, and we just couldn't find one around here. And I don't want to say we gave up, but we weren't really actively looking. And then we got a call from a friend who knows the landlord, and one thing led to another, and there we go. But that's kind of how the story about how we got started.
I think that's great.
It was a lot of fun.
So
Yeah, we're super excited. We have some good family. I grew up coming to Norton all the time. My dad's best friend lives in Norton and he's lived in Norton. I mean, I'm 50. I'm going to be 55, and he's lived there as long as I've been alive. They live around Walker. Is it Walker? Walker Street. It used to be a dirt road when I was a kid. And we used to go there, and he owned almost the whole street. He owned all that land there. And we used to go up there, and I was riding my bike back last summer, and we rode by, and there's a little bridge with a stream we used to swim in when we were kids. And so I'm familiar with the town, and, I've been going up there to visit my dad's friend for many, many years. So it's nice to have that familiarity and some ties to the town, and to be living in Sharon. It's so close,
That's great. Lauren,
Yeah, we're excited.
Oh, we're happy to have another good place, right across the street, which apparently I didn't know, but I love Thai food, and what you're describing, I hope you get it going quickly.
Yeah, thanks.
We'll be getting people over there.
Yeah, we're excited. We've had a lot of, someone got wind of it recently. I don't know. I think it was one of the women from the hair salon came over yesterday and said, word's out. People in town know. And my wife checked her Facebook page, and it was like blowing up. Like, everybody was liking her page from Norton. And so the word seems to be out, which wasn't part of the plan, but we'll take it. I like to ease into things, but maybe not.
We are desperate for something that is not pizza here.
Laura, it's so true. We live in Sharon, and we go to Providence quite a bit, just for some variety. So we're in this little kind of food desert, if you will. So we're excited. We're super excited. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to your fresh rolls.
Oh, the fresh rolls are great.
I love fresh rolls.
fresh rolls are great. She makes the spring rolls all by hand. Like they roll them all by hand. She makes her curry pastes. She makes her curry powders. I don't know if she's going to make this sausage, but she has a sausage that she makes that's it's amazing. Her mom will send us over boxes of, dried peppercorns and different ingredients that she uses in some of her soups and some of the sauces. So really authentic, And then we just love, we love the business. So a lot of it is going to be about making those connections with people.
You can't tease us like that. Mention something that might not be on the menu.
Hopefully she does
Yeah.
the sausage. She always says, because I hate making that sausage. My shoulders hurt when I'm done. She makes it from scratch. So it's no joke. And it's spicy. I mean, if there are a few things on the menu that can be pretty spicy. So
Sounds like a great training opportunity for somebody else.
what's that?
So it sounds like a great training opportunity for someone else. Teach them how to make the sausage.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Denise, don't you have two teenage kids?
I do. They'll be looking for work probably this summer.
Oh, well, Denise, I know a place that's opening up right across the street from the fire station.
That's perfect. They can ride their bikes there.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Hey,
Yeah.
Paul, should we schedule them for a profile when they open?
Yeah, absolutely. We do some video promotions for small businesses.
Yep.
We've done 4 so far,
Oh, wonderful.
but yeah, we can coordinate. I'm right across the street, so I'll be making
Yeah.
my way over soon.
That'd be great. Yeah, come over and say hi even before we open. And if you ever see us over there, please come by. And one thing that I want to offer is, if I can do anything to help the town, I've worked quite a bit with the city of Cambridge and their economic development department. I'm a food service consultant for the city of Cambridge, so they use me when they have some of their local business initiatives. They'll call me up and say, hey, can you go and meet with this restaurant or this small business and kind of help with some of the different business strategies and small business grants and programs and incentives they have for the small business in the town. So if there's anything I can ever do to support the town and small business in the town, then feel free to knock on that door.
That's great. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah,
I know
of
we have
course.
some other folks who are fairly new to the area too, who are interested in starting like a small business network.
Yeah.
With other owners within Norton. So we'll make
Sure.
sure to get your contact details as something like that comes
Yeah, I'd be
together.
more than happy to.
And is there anything we can do for you? I'm sure. So Laura is our person who posts everything on Facebook and gets the word out for different businesses and different things going on. Aside from that, because I'm sure she's thinking about it now, is there anything that we can do to help as you open up?
I think we're in a pretty good place. I think as far as permitting, we got our CV already, so that's all set. We're getting close. I'm getting close. I spoke to the health department last week, so they, she was wonderful, and I feel like we're in a good place there. I think we're okay, Renee. I mean, I feel like we have everything under control, and I think come by for some pad thai or some fresh rolls, and like I said, Denise, send those kids over because we're looking for help.
I'd love to.
But no, I think we're in a really good spot. Again, staffing is an issue, and I'm not going to lie to you, it's no joke. It's a national issue, and we've all heard a lot about it. So, we're looking for a few part-timers, and, my wife and her partner are going to do a lot of the cooking, and then I'm sure you'll see me in there after what already is a long day, greeting people and wiping down a table every once in a while. So
Sure. And Michael, what are your hours going to be?
I believe they're thinking 11:30 to about 8. And I'm going to close on Monday. That's assuming we can staff the place. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. It's a real issue. Restaurants have had to scale back. Restaurants have had to, limit themselves to one shift because that's all they can find staff for. But that's the plan as of right now, is to be 6 days a week.
Okay, great. Well, I'm sure we can, when things are posted, we can add in a note there too, that you're looking to hire.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a great opportunity.
Yeah, we'd love to get some local kids and, just local people involved. It's a great way to become a part of the community.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. Well, great. Anyone else have any questions or any comments?
You have will you be doing any delivery services like DoorDash or Uber Eats or anything like that?
We're not, we've started talking about that. I think we will. I think just kind of by design. I mean, it's a great way to drive revenue, and I'm not someone who's so, I don't mind those little fees that they charge, because the way I look at it a little bit differently. But we may try and find our own driver. We've talked to a couple of other restaurants nearby, and on busy nights they'll have 2 or 3 drivers for delivery. So we're going to see how it goes. I mean, we may start with some third-party delivery services, but yeah, we think we're going to at least have that option. We're not sure which, what platform we'll use yet.
Mhm.
But we tried to come up with a nice decor. It's clean. It's it's got some color and somewhat kind of stylish. So we hope to bring some people in as well. Encourage people to eat in, especially now that kind of COVID it seems to be winding down, and hopefully, the end is in sight, and people feel more comfortable coming out and eating in public. So that's the hope.
And would you be opposed to, say, an economic development commission hosting a meeting
No,
at your
not at all.
establishment for dinner
No,
one night?
not at all. No, not at all. That'd be a lot of fun.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That might be I think we're virtual through the end of this month, unless something came out in the last week that I haven't seen. But so that might end up a perfect opportunity for us to get together
Yeah.
in person in March.
Yeah, we'll push some tables together and put out some food. That'd be fun.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah, sure.
excellent. Well, Michael, thank you so much. I'm sorry, Laura,
Of
do
course.
you have something else to say?
Me? No.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I thought you went to speak and I cut you off. Apologies. No, thank you for coming. We wish you the best of luck, and certainly looking forward to you opening and having some, as Laura said, much needed changes other
Variety.
than pizza. Yeah, I have pizza
Yeah,
sitting
we're-
right next to me for
We were there last night, Renee, and that's what we ended up having. So we're with you. Yeah, we had pizza.
no, I think it's great. Well, great. If you need,
Thank
again, if
you.
you need anything from us, let us know. Otherwise, we'll be following you and certainly trying to push some marketing out there for you, some free promos to let people know that you're coming into town and
Yeah, I
what
appreciate
you
it.
we
I appreciate it. And again, if there's anything I can do, feel free to reach out and let me know. We're very much, and we very much believe in that relationship with the community and that give and take. I mean, community supports you. It's important to support the community in return. So
Yeah, that's great. Very much
we appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. Have a great night.
All right. You all enjoy your night. Great to meet you all. Hope to see you all soon.
You
Thank
will.
you very much.
Thank you.
Nice meeting
Okay.
you.
Okay. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. So it's exciting to have a little bit of variety right across the street, Paul. Right?
So embarrassing. I didn't know. When I go by tomorrow, I'll probably look up, oh, there's the sign. Because the old restaurant sign had been up as of a few weeks ago, but
Did he say the sign is up? I thought he said they were still working on getting it.
oh, well, there's my excuse for not
Maybe I
knowing it
missed
was
that.
there.
I don't remember what it looked like last time I drove by, but it is exciting. I'm looking forward to it. Okay, so Frank, thank you for joining, and the 2 Steves who I see are on. Really appreciate you guys taking the time, and we won't keep you long because I know it's certainly a long day for you. But we wanted to get together. We've had some conversation with Paul in respect to overall economic development within the town, and really understanding what your plans were, as well as collaborating with the EDC. And I think Paul, maybe you could talk to. I think we have some ownership items as part of the master plan, where, you know, just us working together and understanding what the future of, you know, the sewer projects are, how that may play into the development and certain target areas that we've looked at. Paul, I don't know if you want to provide any additional information in respect to the master plan that can help us.
Yeah, well, one of the main priorities that came out of the master plan, which was adopted, you know, within the last year, was aligning our infrastructure investments with land uses, in particular, promoting economic development. So the goal, you know, which would create a number of wins for a lot of different people. One of which for the water and sewer department would be, obviously if you were expanding sewer, say on 123 or Mansfield, you're going to get a lot more connections. The town would see potentially more businesses coming in, so there's increased property tax revenues, more jobs that could be. And as you know, the work you did on West Main Street's already resulted in some things happening there, where Bog Iron, for example, was able to stay because there's now sewer. And so, now they've expanded. In fact, they've recently got their capacity maximized. Now they've occupied the new space. And so now they can go, Brian at Bog Iron is just about ready to start opening up to a much larger capacity, but that happened because you all put the sewers in there. And so the plan recognized examples like that. And so, Frank and I work a lot together, and we've had conversations about, we would like to see, the next investments going into places that align where we would like to see the jobs and the companies and so forth. So, that's the conversations I've had with the Economic Development Commission as well.
Yeah, I know there was some questions that were asked a while back. We did provide a brief description of the WCMP plan and a map. I know Steve Peterson has prepared a short slideshow to bring the commission up to speed on where this all started and what the projection where we're looking. If you would allow, he could share that with everybody tonight, give you background on how the program started and where we are headed. And if there's any specific questions for development areas, we may touch on them tonight based on what's shown in the slideshow or the map, or we could pinpoint certain areas if you guys have certain areas that you are anticipating growth or would like to see some growth. A lot of it is driven by SRF funding, which means basically the areas that would see any type of sewer project would have to be in a needs area. Other than that, funding can be difficult to get for those areas. But if the commission would wish, Steve does have a slideshow that he could present. That's completely up to you guys.
Yeah, no, I think that would be great. Steve, you should be able to share.
Yeah, I can share my screen. We'll see how well I do. I'll start doing that. And okay, so screen one, share. Can you see my, it says I'm sharing now, so you can see it?
Yes.
And I can move as quickly or as slowly as you want through some of this stuff. Basically, based on my understanding here, just kind of give you a brief background on the planning process that has gone into the sewers, kind of where we've been, where we are now, and what it's laid out for the future, which is kind of my understanding of what you're looking for. And if you want to, ask questions as we go or at the end, it's fine. I think it'll take me about 10 or 15 minutes to get through the slides. So just to give you some quick background, wastewater planning has been going on for some time. Really goes back to 1977 is when the wastewater facilities plan, that was the real original planning document. And that set the foundation for some of the original sewers that went in, and you'll see those on the map. Some areas north of the reservoir and around Winnacunnet and stuff like that. And since then, and more recently, what I've been involved with, Weston and Sampson and the commission have been involved with, is more recent planning. Over the last 15 years, going through what's now referred to as a comprehensive wastewater management process. So, and that has all culminated most recently in the final CWMP and single environmental impact report, which was completed in August of 2017. So that's really the most recent document that really provides a lot of the history and a lot of the reasoning behind where we're at now. A big part of that process is the public outreach process. There were some meetings along the way. A couple of the bigger ones, there was a public meeting. Both of these, I think, were at the library, public meeting in November of 2012. And then more recently, a public hearing in February 2015, as we were finalizing the CWMP to go over that. And some of basically that's what a lot of these slides are. I definitely scaled it way back to just give you more of a broad overview. But that's kind of the history behind the wastewater planning. So at the time of the CWMP, the existing wastewater system in the town consisted of 3 treatment facilities, and still does, 3 treatment facilities utilized by the town of Norton. You know, the main Mansfield plant, what was the Mansfield plant is now the MFN. Some flow does go to Taunton. The Winnicott area flows to the Taunton wastewater plant, and then the school, Norton Public Schools, have the plant at the middle school, which also was handling flow from the high school and Yale School, and that has since changed with the more recent sewer work that was done. So the high school and Yale School are no longer connected to that middle school treatment. And then the existing, there were basically 5 main areas of existing sewers at the time of the facilities plan. We had provided this map before. I'm not sure if you've had a chance to see it, but I think this really tells the story that you're kind of looking for and that will generate the discussion tonight, I guess. So the purple areas are all those existing areas that I was referring to that really came out of that 1977 facilities plan. And again, the northern upper sections of Mansfield Ave, Norton Grove, these are the K neighborhoods, Knollwood, and this is Winnicott down here. And as part of the CWMP, we really, the main goal of that was to establish the high priority needs areas for future sewer. And we'll talk a little bit more about this, but in blue on this map, you know, the spoiler alert, these are the areas that have been identified as the high priority needs area. Basically finishing sewering around the reservoir with a couple areas south of the reservoir and protecting obviously that important vital resource. And then focusing on the densely populated commercial corridor of Route 123, basically from, so this is the green in here is the interceptor. So basically from just west of the interceptor, almost all the way out to the town, the town line with Attleboro, up to North Worcester Street. Then a couple of little branches off of it. And again, these are the areas that popped as part of the CWMP process. So the way that worked is, you know, the entire town was divided into 11 study areas and ranked. And the factors that were used in that were soil limitations or suitability for on-site systems, was a big driver, lot size, density of development, proximity and impacts to natural resource areas, the history of on-site system performance, if the systems were performing well or not, and then certain economic factors. And in the end, you know, the blue areas on the previous map basically are parts of what were what were labeled as areas 2, 3, 4, 6, and 7. So basically areas 2 and 3 are those 2 areas. And I've got more figures that go into each of these areas, are the areas below the reservoir. And then 6 and 7 is the corridor along Route 123. And then area 4 was that piece of North Worcester Street. So having defined the needs areas, the next step was development of preliminary sewer layouts for the needs areas. And again, focusing at that point on the remaining areas around the reservoir and that main commercial area building from the center out. So these are areas 2 and 3. Again, the areas just below the interceptor. I'm sorry, just below the reservoir. Biggest issues in here were soil limitations for on-site systems, some dense development, around the reservoir, and the resulting surface water quality concerns. That's why the areas north of the reservoir were sewered, and the intent is to finish that as we go forward. So these are areas 2 and 3 of the identified needs areas. So then moving down to the commercial piece, Route 123, as we said. So this is areas 6 and 7 that basically takes us from the interceptor sewer and then all the way out. So this is area 6 here with the campus at Wheaton College. All the black lines here are actually the existing sewers in Wheaton College that used to go to their treatment plant. And then area 7 just continues along. Area 7 also includes the Barrowsville area. And then the last area is continuing up North Worcester Street. And these neighborhoods up here, the Salem Street neighborhood and JF Kennedy neighborhood were identified as in the greatest need of a centralized wastewater solution. So all that being said, those at the time of the CWMP, we had put a schedule together. Like everything else, one of the biggest things that drives the schedule is cost and ability to pay for the infrastructure. And that's why it was, the plan at that time was spread out over time to give the commission and the users of the system time to absorb the costs as we build the system out and not to have too much overlap on the debt schedule. And just looking at this back in 2016, so one of the first things that happened was Wheaton College was at a point where they needed to rebuild their treatment plant. They either needed to do that or allocate those resources to another solution. So they collaborated with the town, the Water and Sewer Commission, understanding that area 6 that we talked about on Route 123, that was going to be the key point for collection of all the wastewater from the needs areas identified. We knew we needed a pump station at or near the Wheaton campus at that point in town. So it was a great opportunity to get that station built. So that pump station that will handle all of the flow from all of these needs areas eventually, it's sized to handle all of that over time, is in place. Subsequent to that, the plan was to then build area 6 and 7. The issue being, ideally getting the areas around the reservoir is critical because that's driven from an environmental perspective and a water quality issue. But we needed infrastructure in both areas 6 and 7 in order to support areas 2 and 3. And so what's happened since the Wheaton station went online, the Norton Housing Authority came forward. They were going to have to build a treatment plant. They had grant monies to do that. Another collaboration, with the town through the Water and Sewer Commission and with the Norton Housing Authority. They were able to allocate those monies earmarked for a treatment plant and help, make a significant contribution to the extending the infrastructure. So we were able to extend the infrastructure up Route 123 to the Housing Authority property. And basically that provides the infrastructure to connect both areas 2 and 3, those areas from the reservoir. Because part of area 3 is going to come down and connect at Freeman Street, down near where the old Dunkin' Donuts is at the intersection of Freeman Street and 123. And then the area 2 is going to connect down Mansfield Ave. So at this point, you know, what's dictated where the commission has gone, you know, it's kind of followed the money, you know, the resources being available. And that's probably how it will continue to go. If there are areas, you know, that can contribute to the cost of the project. But definitely looking at that Mansfield Ave area and trying to get those areas around the reservoir sewered. So hopefully that provides you with a little bit of detail on where, you know, how it came to be, what the needs areas are. And I guess we can talk about how that dovetails with the master plan, which is what you wanted to talk about.
Great, thank you, Steve. Does
I
anyone
can
on the-
stop sharing for now. I can put any of those figures back up if you want me to share again, if there's anything you want to see.
Okay, I'll ask the commission if there are any questions for what Steve presented.
I just have a quick question. I may have missed it, but is Newland Avenue part of that plan? I know that Daggett Crandall was needed to tie in at some point. Is that an existing line that's already down there on Newland?
So yes, so here's the Newland Ave area and through here. So there's the Daggett Crandall Nursing Home there. So there is a line, like, so these neighborhoods in here aren't sewered, but the K neighborhood up here is. We're actually currently looking at plans from the Turtle Crossing development to tie in. We've got the Norton Glen development has a line that runs down here, Red Mill Village, and the new development at 274 East Main Street have lines that run up Newland Street and end up at the Knollwood Pump Station.
Thanks. I was on the map and appreciate the blow up there.
Yeah.
So Steve, what's the process? So this is it's a private company, right? So, I mean, at whatever time they need to tie in, they just contact the water and sewer department, and then folks work together to do the connections.
So yeah, I mean, I mean, it's more than the Water and Sewer Commission, right? Like Turtle Crossing is dealing with all the town departments.
Mm-hmm.
And then, part of that process is getting approved plans through the Water and Sewer Commission, confirming that the infrastructure can support it. And a big issue with the Turtle Crossing thing that we're looking at is we're going to need to make some upgrades at the Knollwood station to support that development. It's pretty much maxed out, and they're going to have to contribute to those improvements in order to be able to tie in. So, I mean, there's a process, there's a peer review process, and then there's, fees that are in place that the Water and Sewer Commission administers, again, for both water and sewer.
I just have a quick question, and this might be for Paul. I'm not really sure, but obviously this plan predates the master plan. Has anyone compared them to see where the gaps are based on what we identified in the master plan?
Well, the master plan incorporated the comprehensive water and wastewater master plan into it. So, but the master plan didn't go and assess the work that had already been done. Again, what the master plan was really trying to do was just align our decision making, our land use decision making with this. So one thing I want to mention too is, as they go forward, as the Water and Sewer Commission goes forward with future investments, then it's on us or planning to look at those areas where they're proposing to particularly add sewer, to see how we might want to rezone those properties, similarly to what we did with Village Center Core, which, you know, we rezoned probably half of that area that was sewered. We need to start looking at that remaining portion between the high school and the housing authority. But then as decisions are made by the Water and Sewer Commission about where the next sewer extension goes, we need to follow that and see, are there changes to zoning that we should make to try to encourage more development in the right areas, say along the corridors, to promote, you know, more development, which again will have a lot of benefits, and you know, from more taps for the sewer, water and sewer department, to property taxes, more jobs, and in areas where it has the least impact on a residential area, which the main corridors will have.
And Steve, I know you were showing like the path from the area on the right side, like from Red Mill Village over to the K streets. Is that blue line indicative of existing infrastructure?
Yes, yeah, so
Okay.
these areas all pump over, so there's a pump station at Red Mill and a pump station at 274 East Main, and then all the individual buildings at the Norton Glen development have their own pumps. So there's a pressure network of sewers that bring it over and then discharge it into the gravity sewers at the K neighborhood.
Okay, so is it safe to assume that any potential future business that's put on 123 east of 495 to the Eastern Line would be tied into sewer?
Actually
could
not.
be?
I mean, those aren't so on this side of 495, it's not a given. I mean, they would have to find a way to get there. Like, not, these systems can't necessarily support additional connections to their sewer system. And these don't, they're not identified necessarily as needs areas. So we are also limited. One thing that we have to, the commission has to keep a close eye on is the capacity that they purchase at the MFN plant. They had to, that played a big part in their cost share contributions to the plant. So they had to do their due diligence. It wasn't just an open, we'll take 1 million gallons, they needed to know how much. So, the amount of capacity available, there's plenty available at the MFN right now, but it's based on, sewering these needs areas. So with a little bit of space, most of these all of these developments that are here were known at the time of the purchase of the capacity, including the Turtle Crossing, and then there's also a development that's being entertained at IslandBrook now that you're probably familiar with, also right on Route 123 in the needs area.
Okay, thank you. Laura, did you have a question?
I have a question if I may.
I
Go ahead,
did.
Laura.
Oh.
Go ahead, Laura.
Sorry, no, I actually saw Chris's hands up first though, so.
Yeah, I was open up to the commission first, Laura, and then I'll
Oh,
move out.
sorry. He's on the commission.
We're trying to get him on. This is a way to influence him to say he's going to join.
Okay, excellent. Well, you should really take his questions earlier then. I did have a question as to, so we had a recent town meeting where a citizen put forth a petition to extend the time by which they needed to connect to sewer, and town meeting approved that. And I'm wondering what that has or will do to the proposed timelines that were on the following pages.
So it certainly, it has some impact on it. As far as how much of an impact, that's yet to be seen. Because the sooner that we can get the customers that are fronted by the sewer, the sooner you build the infrastructure to bring the people in, and the sooner they come in and contribute to the cost, obviously the better it is for the overall financial health of the system and the enterprise fund. So it's to be determined how much that's going to impact it. I mean, all of the costs are certainly not borne by the existing users. You know, the people that are connected, those user charges, the primary, you know, focus of those monies is to pay for the operation and maintenance of the system that's in place. That's why we seek other funding opportunities or other partners to help in the capital cost of extending the sewer out and constructing it. But part of that cost is borne by the sewer users. Part of it's, you know, betterments to the fronted properties, and then whatever other sources come available. So, and I don't know, Frank, if you want to add any to that, but I think that's kind of.
I was going to touch on that tonight. It will have a long-term effect on what we see in our retained earnings budget. We anticipated return on the investment within the 5 years. It was moved out to 7 at town meeting, as Laura had mentioned. The concern there is that it appears that anybody can pull this same article at upcoming town meetings and keep kicking that can down the road. At some point, you know, the retained earnings is going to get low enough that the next step would be a rate increase, and that's a heavy burden for the limited amount of sewer customers that we have now, when we've already expended money forward and, you know, provided infrastructure improvements. One thing that might be worth looking into, and I know Paul and I had spoken about this briefly in the past, is possibly changing zoning prior to utility improvements in some areas to promote growth in those areas, and the new potential landowners could actually come before the Water and Sewer Commission, show their proposed projects and ask for adjustments in the rates or the permitting. If these new applicants were looking to do an infrastructure improvement that would better the town along with their new proposed properties. Something like where Steve had mentioned that has to go on down at Turtle Crossings, and something that we're working with the people here at IslandBrook. Turtle Crossings is a little bit more involved. The area in both water and sewer can't support that development without improvements. They were aware of this many years ago. They presented the plans back then. Certain things were approved. Since those plans have sat dormant for so long, many other areas have been sewered and have also been provided with upgrades. So most of those offerings that were on the table at the time now have to change, so that not only can we support that type of growth, but to make sure that there's still a little bit of wiggle room there for others to come in. You know, we don't want to build it just so it customizes to this one particular area when we know there are other possible growth areas down along that way. So, you know, Paul could, you know, mention anything about that tonight, if it's something that the town has been interested in doing about changing zoning prior to having applicants. Just a thought I've had.
Sorry, just one follow-up question, if you don't mind. I know what Turtle Crossing is. You mentioned something called IslandBrook, was it?
Yeah, IslandBrook is another 40B development, come in right around the same time as Turtle Crossings did, I believe, the 2013 to 2016 area, and this one is
Okay.
on 123, just before the Interceptor or the old railroad tracks.
Got it. Sorry, I wasn't familiar with the name of it. I knew there was another one out there. Thank you.
Yeah, and neither of those have been built. I know IslandBrook has had litigation issues, and Turtle Crossing actually they had received a handful of extensions, but they didn't get one. They expired last year. But I've been talking to them. They've been, you know, I've had conversations with them for up to a year. They keep saying it's coming in, it's coming in. Not here yet, but you know, they've expressed interest in getting that going again, and you know, we'll see. But they are aware again that, like Frank said, that there are sewer issues in that area.
Can I ask,
Thank you.
Sorry, Laura.
Nope.
I see kind of the way I see it, there's kind of there's two things we're talking about. We're talking about development, like commercial development, industrial development. And I see that as less of an issue whenever you have a developer that goes into, it eyes wide open. They do their due diligence. They know what the costs are gonna be to tie in. They have to go through all the studies and permitting and all that type of stuff to determine, what it's going to cost to connect to the sewer and how long it's going to take. And that's a very defined kind of process. And I think from the other side of it, so you got that side of it, which is, development. And then the other side of it being existing residential and commercial areas that are on septic. And whenever the line gets put through their neighborhood or that part of town, they then have to tie into it. And those costs are set by the sewer and water department, and no one has any say or any idea what those are going to be. And they can be very, very expensive. And so I think that's one of the reasons it came up at town hall or town meeting last year, was because it's a big hit. I mean, tying in a 4-bedroom house costs upwards of $15,000, I think, just for the permit fee to the town, not to mention the actual construction cost you then have to undertake to, remove your septic and tie in, like actually lay the line and do all of that. So you're talking about a 4-bedroom house costing $25,000, $30,000, depending on how far they're set back from the town. What, I guess from that side of it, what determines those fees? Like, why are they as high as they are? And is there another way that we could like offset that with, I mean, you mentioned rate increases or something like that, because I think you'd get a higher adoption rate if you didn't have such high initial fees, and the rates, like the monthly rate or quarterly rate, however it's charged, if those rates were higher, it would be a lot easier to get people to buy into it, because I don't have $25,000 sitting around if I wanted to tie in.
The biggest bang for your buck is to be able to vote it with a certain of the general benefit being assessed to the entire town through taxes. And that has not been supported on recent projects. So it's been borne again by these other entities that have come in, and then by the properties fronted, and then through user rates. But the best way to drive those costs down, because there's all these pieces that you look at. Here's what the project cost. Here's what we collected from the Norton Housing Authority. Here's what is reasonable for a betterment cost here, here's what we can get from other sources, and then how are we going to pay for the rest of this? The betterments are one piece of it, the user rates are another. So it's definitely a balancing act, but I think the biggest bang for your buck, and maybe especially in a commercial zone, if this is an area that's going to be an economic boost for the town, the next time we vote one of these, you should definitely consider getting the town to chip in a bigger piece of the pie, and that will bring down the betterment costs. If the town as a whole feels that this project is going to benefit them. I mean, I think that's one way to bring those costs down.
Cody, one of the reasons I support sewering the corridors is you have a better opportunity to get to increase development entitlements there for a number of reasons, which, again, Steve and Frank can explain this a lot better than I, and please correct me, but ultimately they have fixed costs, right, when they expand sewer. But if we go into an area like West Main or Mansfield Ave, and we're able to increase the entitlements, that means there's a better opportunity for more hookups, more businesses or more people could live there. And that way they can divide the cost up, spread the costs out more among more people, right? So if you had 10 people having to pay 10,000, well, I'm not going to try to do the math, but you get my point that they distribute the cost more among more connections, more businesses or more people. So if we go into areas where we can, increase, slightly, I mean, Norton's not going to be Back Bay in Boston, but if we're able to do something like that, I think you can spread the costs out a bit more among more people or
Yeah,
users.
I think I get what you're saying. I guess the challenge that we will run into as a town, and I think everybody will recognize that initial reactions for the majority of citizens always seem to be no when something comes up, and getting buy-in to run sewer past somebody's house and then requiring them to connect to it and charging them $15,000, $20,000. I mean, the charge to the town to connect, the fee to the town to connect. I understand that there's some, recovery of initial costs of the plan, but it's people don't have that kind of money to connect. So that's why I'm saying, like, it's going to be a much harder uphill battle to run sewer and get approval from voters if somebody's going to say, I can't afford $10,000 or $12,000 to pay to the town. You want to run a sewer by my house? I'm going to vote no on it, and I'm going to make a big stink about it at town hall. And if you do pass it, then I'm going to come to town hall, just like happened, or to town meeting, just like happened last year, and raise a stink about it and kick the can down the road if I can get. And citizens in town are going to say, I don't want to be in your shoes either. And if I ever end up in your shoes, I would want you to vote the same way I'm going to vote for you, and I'm going to vote to kick the can down the road. So that's what I'm saying. Like, is there a better way that we can come up with recovering the funds or distributing it across a longer period of time, or increasing rates instead of, like, the initial cost is exorbitant. I've talked to other people in other towns surrounding area, and their connection fees to the town are much, much less. Now, I don't understand why they're so high here, and some insight to that, and maybe we can figure out a better way of doing it. It's just going to be, when you're running through a residential area to run commercial lines for developing out the different areas that we want to develop, you're going to run into more roadblocks from the people that live in that area.
Yeah, and Cody, you're actually, you're making my point, that I think if we are focusing on the corridors, and I realize there are single family homes on the corridors mixed in with businesses, it's probably more politically acceptable to go, because the example you were talking about was Plain Street, which is a low density residential area. And if you were extending, say, down West Main Street, now it's a lot of businesses that are there, and property owners of those businesses that might want to see more development there that they can't do because they're going to be capped by the septic system that's there. So I think there may be more public acceptance of sewer on a main road versus a residential area, residential road.
I recognize that, and certainly 123 makes perfect sense. And I know there are houses up and down 123, and they've been there forever. And people that live in them probably don't have $25,000 to tie into and the one that happened down Plain Street. I mean, surely those people. I realized the line that ran down that had to do with the connection for Wheaton, and that's the way it had to go. And only a certain portion of that they had to pay to connect, because had something to do with, like, gravity fed versus pumped. But the way that these lines run, if we have to use a certain route to tie in, and that route runs through a residential area, and now you tell the people that live on that route, you have to buy into this. And by the way, surprise, here's $20,000 that you got to come up with. It's going to be unpopular, and it's going to be an uphill battle. And to your point, Frank, the longer you kick that can down the road, the harder it is, and then the rates are going to have to go up. So if there's a way we can address that now in some way, or start thinking about a way to address it, it's just going to be a lot easier than every single time we come up for town meeting, somebody's kicking the can down the road so they don't have to tie in for another 3 years, 5 years, whatever it is.
So let me just bring us back for a second too. We had conversations early on with business owners about the difficulty, back to Paul's point about looking at the corridors to support this. And I don't know if it's possible. I like the idea of looking at rezoning prior to the infrastructure going in there. But I think that, the hard sell for us, and we've had a lot of conversations with people about the availability of the infrastructure, and some of them, Norton's a great location, but they just, they don't want to deal with the extra expense. So it would be nice to, have a plan where we looked at different areas for rezoning for this purpose. And Frank, I don't even know if this is possible, but, in those areas where we have houses, I don't know why we apply it an all, a one plan, right? Why not something where we treat commercial properties differently than we treat residential properties, whether it be in fees or implementation or something else, but just a consideration, because I think, while it's more accepted to be on those main corridors, I think that there's still going to be, a person who's impacted who is going to come and talk at town meeting. The other thing I want to mention too, Steve, do you know when will we have an updated diagram like this that we'd be able to share with business owners? Because I don't see the section that was just completed for the housing authority, and I believe that the high school's on it. It's not shown here. Is there something that you'll have soon that we'd be able to share if people came to us and just asked where the sewer was or what potential hurdles they might run into?
Yeah, I can work with the commission on making updates for this map. There's not a lot has changed, but just to be able to update it, we can do that.
Sure. And can you tell me too, the Norton Industrial Park at the end of South Washington Street, is that supported by Taunton right now?
The commerce.
Flow does go to Taunton down there. You're correct.
Okay, because we've had a couple questions, and it came up on a recent info session.
Mhm.
And I believe, and I'm sorry because I can't remember the newest member of the commission, but he had some questions on that as well. And I didn't want to speak out of turn because I thought that they had the option to go to Taunton, and it wasn't specifically for Norton.
That is the only option they have. There is no Norton infrastructure down there for sewer.
Okay, and does that support the entire park, Frank?
That does handle all of Commerce Way, and there are a few businesses on South Washington that are also connected to that line. They've had to do extensions. I believe Spears Building, maybe the last one that did an extension down there to tie into sewer. I know there is another applicant, Paul might know what the property is down there, that was looking to build in that general location, and we did have to send them to Taunton to ask for availability of sewer. Because it's actually owned by I believe it's, I could be wrong, I think it's Campanelli or Thorndike, whoever is still owning the Commerce Park. So they have an availability of sewer flow that they own, and they sell off portions of that.
Yeah,
Okay.
the property is right next to the extended stay.
Yes.
You're talking about Queensbridge, Paul? Or a different?
No, Frank's referring to a project that'll be coming to the town, hopefully within the next couple of weeks, that applying for a special permit for a warehouse there.
Okay, great. Is there, Frank, is there any way that we could show that on the map that sewer is available, but it's through Taunton?
I'm sure there's something that we can depict on the map to indicate that. We've been very cautious about updating this map. It is something it's been a few years that we did want to go over with Weston Sampson about, the mapping also showed indications of what years we were going to be doing certain areas, and putting that information out there. If somebody is planning, and kind of stringing their business along or stringing their septic along, we don't want people to hold true to those actual numbers, because as Steve had mentioned, it is funding based.
Sure.
The issue that happened, I believe Cody had mentioned Plain Street. The reason that main went down that road is because the LG North system was failing, and they basically begged the commission to alter the plans and run it that way. So that's how that came about. There was other planning that was in place with different routing that was planned, and that was a last minute change that caused the direction of that sewer main where it connects with the MFN sewer to ultimately be changed really at the 11th hour. To touch back on something that you had mentioned earlier, Renee, the main corridor, commercial businesses are charged differently than the residential people who are there. Steve could touch a little bit on that if we wanted to get into that. It's based on water usage for the commercial buildings. And what we did, we looked pre-COVID back to 2 full years of water use at those particular locations. And that's how they were assessed their betterments, because those locations obviously use more water than the average residential home, and would indicate that there's going to be much more waste generated from that, which we would pay for after it goes through the pumping station. So that is something that was looked at as part of the betterment costs along that section of 123. It's kind of a double-edged sword. I know exactly where you're coming from, Cody, and I know exactly where how I feel about it. Both ways. It is a huge impact for people who own homes along the section, and where the town basically did not want to get involved and throw in a little bit of a percentage, as Steve Peterson had mentioned, as a town-wide betterment. That does affect the overall cost of the betterments across every project that's going to come, whether it be this one here or ones in the future. And the more customers we can have, or the more commercial properties we can have on one particular area, is going to drive costs down. But I would have to say, knowing the ages of the homes along the sections that are highlighted in the needs areas, if these residents and businesses were actually required to test the operations of their septic system, I would say you got more than 50% of them that aren't going to pass Title V. So just because they're stringing it along and they haven't had to sell their home, so they haven't had to have it tested, it doesn't mean it's actually working correctly. Where tying into sewer will solve that problem for the life of the property. So, the 16,000 betterment, again, you look at it, it is an initial cost up front for that exact property owner at the time, but sewer is provided to that property for the life of that building. There's many homes in town that are over 100 years old. So, when you break it down long-term, it's a relatively small amount that you couldn't replace the septic system for a fraction of that cost on that same location. Plus, it also adds additional buildable positions on that property. Many people have the septics in their front yard. Some people have it in the backyard. But again, they're limited. They can't put any buildings over it. You wouldn't want to put a driveway over it if you don't have to. So it limits their growth in that particular area by still keeping a septic system.
Is there, and I know, I get the business side, you gotta pay for what's put in there. I'm just thinking from the other side of it, it's a shock cost to somebody that wasn't anticipating it. And just because infrastructure happened to go by their house, now all of a sudden they're required. Is there a way that we can build in, like, instead of, okay, you owe this and you owe it now, having some sort of way for individuals that can't afford that to kick that out or pay it off over a longer period of time, or something along those lines? Because if they sell their home, they can recoup it immediately and it'll go away. But anyone that wants to stay where they are and doesn't have $20,000 sitting in the bank, is there a way that they can file some sort of hardship or something like that, so we can direct them in that path, so that every time, because this is just going to keep coming up. every time we run it through a residential area and, it's going to come to town meeting and somebody's going to get up and say, I can't afford this, let's kick the can down the road. We need to come up with a way to say, you can't afford it, you've got a hardship, here, we'll figure out a way to help you with, because the betterment fee is the bigger issue. You can finance through the state for the actual cost of connection, and you can take out a loan and pay that out over 20 years. But the betterment fee is due immediately. And it's like, and that's the more expensive cost. The connection might be $5,000-$10,000, but the betterment fee is 15. And so that's the bigger shock cost to them. And if it's going to cost that much and they can't afford it, is there a way we can kind of help the individuals that need that so that we're not having to re-vote on this every single time it comes up in town meeting? That's I guess what I'm saying, because the commercial piece, they can build it into their loan. They can, they can come up with some way to finance it whenever they're building out an area. They can take out a loan. Individuals don't have that ability.
All right, I'll touch on that. So we're talking about two different locations here that had two different ways that they were valued. So Plain Street residents, because of the change at the last minute, that project did not meet the requirements to be assessed betterments. The 123 project that was assessed betterments, those were granted, I don't remember the exact number, I'm sure Steve can pick up on it, options for a low interest loan, and the payments would be deferred and added to their taxes. That was through the town. And as you had mentioned, the construction portion of it, there are loans available through the Board of Health for that actual connection for that. I don't remember if it was 2% or 2.5%, but the Board of Water and Sewer Commissioners did vote to approve betterments could be paid over time. And that would, that suffices any project that has a betterment cost. Again, Plain Street was different because of the change at the last minute. Steve, if you want to touch on that, I think I'm.
Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, for the town center project, the Wheaton work, the pump station at Wheaton and the force main, that was not voted with betterments because there were no properties being fronted at the time. And then, so we added, when we changed the route of the force main and picked up the North School and added some additional infrastructure, if you can't assess a betterment, the regs, you can either assess a betterment or a connection fee. So the properties along Plain Street were assessed a connection fee. So with the betterments, and that's when we did the West Main Street project, the way the town meeting vote went, it included betterments. And those betterments, so it's the same cost. Those are assessed upfront. As soon as the sewer is ready for use, everybody that's fronted is assessed a betterment, whether they connect or not. They're all assessed their $16,000 betterment. They can either pay it up front, or they can ignore it, and it just gets apportioned for 20 years onto their taxes at 2.5% interest. So, and that's, so that whole extending the time to connect to 7 years for the people that paid the betterment, they're kicking the can down the road in terms of the cost to connect, but they're paying their betterment. They're paying for the infrastructure that was put in front of the property. With the connection fees, it's a fee that isn't assessed until you connect to the sewer.
So would there be a way? So obviously there's a way to, if it's assessed as a betterment, then it's essentially the same cost. It's just spread out over.
It's just a different mechanism. Yeah, it's handled differently. And we looked at, so the town didn't have the ability on the connection fee based on the votes to apportion it, they don't have the ability to apportion connection fees through taxes. They can't lien the property. Basically with the betterments, all the properties are liened. So everybody has a lien on their property until they pay it off. And again, that's regardless of whether they connect or not. They still have the same requirement to connect, but that big fee is different. And, any sewers that go into dense areas like we did on the West Main Street extension, will, the intent is to go forward with betterments that can be apportioned over time.
Gotcha. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Hey, Chris, did you still have a question?
I do. Good afternoon, everyone, or good evening, I should say. Nice to see you all. First of all, I'd just like to say that I appreciate the folks, the two Steves and Frank, to jump on this evening. Clearly the waste treatment wastewater treatment is certainly inexorably connected to economic development, for sure. It's been a great discussion about the benefits that wastewater treatment will bring to the community. I appreciate all the questions of the commission today. I'd like to just bring the perspective of how to create recreational opportunities that increase the desirability to live in the community and work in the community. I think that's an important component. As some of you may know, I'm spending time here in Orange County in California. And one thing that, in speaking with a gentleman who used to run the town of Tustin for 30 years, what he explained to me is that any type of stormwater or wastewater treatment project has a recreational component to it. And those recreational components has resulted in hundreds of miles for biking and hiking and walking and all sorts of activities that just naturally tie into multiple uses of those type of sewer easements and wastewater treatment easements that take place. And actually, the reality is in the town of Norton, the same thing is taking place with the Norton Rail Trail being plopped on top of that spine in your map, Steve, that runs, basically bisects the town of Norton, that green line that basically shows this is our primary, wastewater outlet here. So my question is, what plans does the Water and Sewer Commission have for future projects to be able to connect a recreational component to the easements that you're taking, to the work that you're doing, that can provide that kind of, desirability to the community, the town of Norton, so that people want to come here and live and want to come here and work, so that we don't have new businesses starting up and can't find the labor supply to be able to get them what they need in terms of hours and profitability and so forth. What plans do you have? And I would even just say one additional question is, what plans do you have specifically around Norton Reservoir? Because I've had discussions with Paul, as well as John Thomas, the new conservation director, about the potential of having a recreational trail that would basically circumnavigate the Norton Reservoir. And these projects that you're discussing would be fantastic to be able to give us a running start on being able to create what I think could be just an amazing lifestyle for the community here. Thanks.
So I guess to answer part of the question, the environmental considerations in these areas is obviously one of the biggest parts of the needs analysis that we did, and that is why one of the highest priorities is to finish these areas around the reservoir, to be able to get rid of those septic systems in close proximity to that drinking water supply. In terms of, and so all areas of town, that's why Winnicott Pond was addressed when it was. So what other resource areas, I guess, are you talking about that you're looking for?
I mean, Norton Reservoir, right? I mean, you've got
So-
projects that are planned there, correct?
We're planning to provide sewers around the entire reservoir, yes.
Okay.
And I guess I'm missing the other part of the question. What else are you looking for from the sewer department?
I mean, as you plan your projects, are you planning your projects with solely one goal in mind, and that is to put the water in, to put the wastewater, put the sewer in? Or do you think about as you're taking land, right? Because you've got to do takings to be able to do these things, and creating rights of way, et cetera. Do you think about the opportunity to have multiple uses of those easements to be able to allow for recreational opportunities, which
Sure,
again,
sure,
okay,
Yeah.
that was my question.
Yeah, I mean, the 99% of what we put in is in the street, so it's in existing travel ways. But yeah, where we need to take easements, all sorts of considerations go in, and we always work with the other departments. Like along the same lines, when we're putting a sewer in a road, we have to look at the water, we have to look at the other utilities, the condition of the road itself. It's all encompassing. But from your perspective, yeah, I mean, we definitely look at all of those things and try and make it more than just an underground pipe, if we can.
Great, thank you so much, appreciate it.
Great. Are there, Steve, would you mind stop the sharing session so I can see everyone? Are there any other questions for either Steve or Frank? Okay, well, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming tonight and for having such a detailed discussion with us. And certainly, Frank, as I mentioned, and Steve, if you guys have an opportunity to update this, just to show what's currently existing, I think the planned area is helpful in our conversations as well if people come to us. But Frank, I understand not trying to tie that to a specific timeline, and I think that that would be fine if it just shows that these are the areas that have been considered for future development. That might just entice somebody to come. And I think too, maybe for purposes of our team, if somebody does, if they're interested in doing what you said, Frank, where they would kind of be the driving force behind additional infrastructure, would we send them to you directly, or is there some other path that we should point them to?
No, definitely send them to me. I know Paul has spoken with a few people, and we've had conversations with others. There's quite a bit of interest in a few of the areas like Elm Street, Reservoir, and 140. We've spoken with a few different interested individuals. Nothing set in stone. We've made sure that they're aware that there are other interested individuals trying to do the same thing, and maybe it could be a joint venture with multiple different entities to get sewer or any type of infrastructure, sewer, water, or both, to a particular area. Again, it would keep costs down. It could be most likely something that's going to work towards improving a certain needs area. If it is not, obviously that's a whole different aspect, and we'd have to deal with that. But and Paul and I work quite a bit behind the scenes. This is the first time being invited to this meeting, but I appreciate having us on and letting us give you a little spiel, a little background on what's going on behind the scenes for many, many years that most people aren't aware of. But definitely, yeah, send them our way if you have any interested parties, even if it's just questions.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much. And Laura has a question, so I'll direct her to you.
Sorry, no, I just had a question for Mr. Peterson. Can we get a copy of the presentation? I'm just picturing like 6 months from now, we're having a discussion and saying, remember that map?
Yeah.
That'd be
Yeah,
great. Thank you.
so the PowerPoint, yeah, I can
That'd be perfect. Thank you.
send that to the distribution list. So Frank, I'll send it to you and you can forward it along. I'll send it in PDF format because it's just a small, easier file to send in. So
Great.
Sure. And Frank, you sent us a map too. That it's slightly different. What you had sent us, what you sent to me, I sent it to the commission.
Okay, sure.
I think that map, maybe it is slightly different than the one I had up here today, but I thought it was the same one. It's still figure 3.1, but there were different iterations of figure 3.1. So anyway, if it's not the same, it's basically the same. There might be some.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, thank you guys again. We appreciate your time very much. And maybe, as we are approach with questions and, we see a trend or anything happening, maybe we can bring you back and think about, ways that we're better positioned to help bring business into. Okay. Thanks again.
Thanks,
right.
guys.
Have
Thank
a
you.
great night.
Have a great
All
night.
right. You too.
Okay, moving on the agenda. So when we were sharing screen, I couldn't see the time. So I just realized a couple minutes ago that it's almost 8 o'clock and we're moving in an hour and a half. So just to be cognizant of everyone's time, and we are not. Sandy, what was that? I promised in my New Year's resolution, we're not going to go past your bedtime, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was doing good, maybe up until this meeting for 2022.
Not 8 o'clock, is it there, Sandy?
No, not quite.
Okay.
We
So
were
we're-
overdue. We are very overdue, though,
For a late night meeting or for a meeting?
for a meeting.
I feel the dig. It's hit me in the back.
Not a dig. No, I'm just saying.
Hey, I was excited when I finally got that agenda out. Trust me, it's not for a lack of thinking about it or my phone reminding me like to send the agenda. It's more a lack of staying awake to do it. Okay, so let's move on to business updates. A couple things I wanted just to mention quickly before I forget. So there are some new businesses coming into town. I know I sent you guys a note that if anybody had a contact for Tasty Bagels, because I'd like to invite them here and just have a brief discussion with them. I was thinking though, as something else was going on, Paul, do you have a contact for them? I know Jen said she was going to check with Nick because they should have had to pull a permit to do renovations in the building, right?
I would think they would have to. I'm not aware. Nick hasn't said that he's heard from them. I was going online to see if they've, because I know they have their Plainville facility. I
Yeah.
do want to point out there that we did hear the owners of Bagels and Cream stop by. So, they were obviously concerned about this. I mean, it's not between the town and anybody, but just bear that in mind. You might want to give them Bagels and Cream an opportunity as
Sure.
well. Although I know the owner, Julian, he's leaving. He's going to Singapore, and his brother's now taking over the business. So, but it might make sense if they had the time to speak to you all.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. And I've never been to Tasty Bagels. It seemed to me, the impression I got from other people was it was not like a bagel place necessarily, more like a kind of a market and a lunch dinner type. Like, are they, I mean, it's similar in name, but are they similar in product as well?
I think they're more extensive. They
Okay.
do have bagels, but when I met with the brothers, I was looking at their menu at Tasty Bagel, and it seems like it's, there's overlap for sure, but Tasty Bagel seems like it has a larger variety.
They
Okay.
also
No.
do, they do more like the fancy hot coffee stuff.
Mhm.
So Bagels and Cream is awesome for your iced coffee. We go there a lot, and their breakfast sandwiches are great. But yeah, Tasty they've got like a little market, and then they've got a more extensive menu.
Okay. No, Paul, that's good. We can, and you have names. Would you mind sending them to me? We can reach out to them and see if they'll come to a future meeting.
Yeah, I'll make a note.
Okay. And then I'm going to shoot an email out to, so the new owner for Home Plate, that's going to be Goat City. She was at the select board meeting last week. And so I have her name, Brianne Sylvie. So I'm going to reach out to her and see if she wants to come and talk to us, just to provide an opportunity for more discussion and, any information we get, we can push along through Facebook. And then there was one more. The new grocery store. So that's the same thing. I don't think we have a specific contact, but we're Or Paul, if you can maybe reach out to Nick, it looks
We
like
might.
they're doing, okay,
Yeah, we might now. I talked to Nick and he's been in touch with the folks that are looking to put in a market over at where Roach Brothers was.
yeah, it looks like they're already doing some work, so we thought
Apparently
they might.
they are, so, yeah. But I'll find out what I can from there too.
Okay, that'd be great. And I see two people raise the hand, but I don't see two people. I just see, oh, Laura, your hand is blended into your background, but,
Oh, sorry. Hang on. I'll lower my hand. That's not me.
oh, okay, Chris?
Yes, so yeah, my wife is on social media and she's been hearing rumblings of India Market is the supermarket that's going to be coming into Roach Brothers. And so I made a phone call to one of my past colleagues to go and check out the store in Shrewsbury, which is on, I believe, Route 20 in Shrewsbury. And so I'm going to get some information back, but it will be a different twist on a grocery store. I've been online and looking at them. It's not going to be exactly what Roach Brothers was. Kind of similar to what Steve Nassif of Nassif Fruit and Produce was portraying. Much more heavily focused on fresh fruit, fresh produce, etc. Has his own direct suppliers, etc. But I'm going to try to gather up as much information. But if you can dig up a contact, I'll try to dig up a contact, Paul, and email it on to you. But the fact is I'm just like over the moon, because that's just fantastic news to be able to get somebody back in that space and actually selling food. Oh man, that is just awesome. Sorry for my excitement. Thank you.
You can be excited. I was just
Okay.
excited for the Thai restaurant. So.
Okay.
No,
Gotcha.
Thai restaurant, Indian grocery store.
I know.
Getting cosmopolitan.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I
Absolutely.
was actually thinking that the groceries might be a really good resource for Yais with all of the fresh produce, kind of some of
Interesting.
the more exotic fruits and vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No,
Absolutely.
we'll have to make sure to mention that to Michael.
Yep.
Right, being new to the town. And
Excellent.
I have no information on timing or anything, but Paul, if you can get a name, I'd love to invite them to the meeting just to have a better understanding. Cause I don't think, where Michael had to come in front of the board for the license. I don't believe that these folks will. I can't remember if it's, I don't think it's a license that that the board has to approve. So this might be the only opportunity to get them.
Unless they're seeking a beer and wine. But I know Roach Brothers had a beer and wine license. So I don't know how that all plays in, because I know there was another party that owned that license, not Gator, not Roach Brothers.
Right.
Oh, but yeah, Nick told me that they were in there today, so they should be coming to him soon. So that's
Excellent.
great.
Yeah, it really is. It's good to see some changes happening. So right about the time we can all get out too. On that note, anything new, Paul, from your perspective, or anyone else here, of whether it be, hopefully it's not rumor mill, but
Do you have any update on solar retail?
yes, so Andre presented last week, and he is looking, it does look like end of March, but they're trying to cut that to mid-March to open up. So they're on track. They have some final things to do. They have to wait. He sent me a note today. I think their 1 year provisional license, he has to file some additional paperwork, but they're pretty close to it. I don't know, Paul, if you've heard anything from Nick on any inspections that they've had to do yet. I think we're
But
probably
I
still
was
a
on
few
that
weeks out.
call. I was on that call, and it sounds like they're right on track.
Yeah.
So Nick will have to do the closeout for the certificate of occupancy, and then he has to go back then to the Cannabis Control Commission to do the final walkthrough. But remember the glitch in the bylaw that we had
Right.
which we corrected. So, but you know, I'm sure the weather this last week slowed them down a bit, but you know, now it's back to whatever it is out there, but they made great progress on it. So if they're open by March, that's going to be, you know, you know,
Yeah.
knows how long it'll take the CCC to get their job done, but
I think that those have been moving pretty fast from what I've heard. Once they file the paperwork and the towns have been in. The other thing too is he did offer for us to have a tour. I mean, he just offered in general. So if we're interested in doing that, not, you know, conducting any sort of town business, but if we wanted just to see the shop and how it's progressing, I'd be more than happy to reach out to him and set that up for us. I did ask him about samples. No free samples, but he said he has some swag he can give us. So I might be looking for a new sweatshirt or something.
couple of things.
I want a leaf medallion, like on a chain.
I don't know what they're. Oh, never mind. I'm not going to comment. Go ahead, Paul.
Just want to mention, planning board recently, they did approve the special permit for the phase 2 of Blue Star. However, an abutter has appealed it. So that's where Yale is scheduled to go. So an abutter did file an appeal. So town council is on top of it. I'm sure Condyne's attorneys are on top of it. And we'll see how that plays out. The planning board also recently approved a second billboard, special permit for a digital billboard right next to the extended stay. Although, as you know, as Renee, you'll know that there's competition on that. So there's a good possibility there'll be an appeal, and then that person will file their application for a special permit. So it's all good, nothing boring.
That replacing the old billboard that can't even be seen behind the trees anymore?
No, this is a digital. Well, I don't know if they never mentioned replacing that, but it's this is a 90-foot tall digital.
Like the one that's out there already.
Yeah, basically. This one may be a little taller, but
You think that one is hidden, Cody?
When the trees are full, yeah, you can't even, like the one that says Norton Business Park or whatever. You can see it during the winter.
yeah, not the digital one, not the
Yeah, the digital one everyone can see.
Oh,
But
okay,
the
yeah.
smaller, like it's the shorter one that it still says like Norton Business Park or something on it, but you can only see it in the winter because when the trees have leaves, you can't see
yeah,
it.
that's a separate property, and you know, this doesn't result in that getting removed. So, but anyway, that's been approved. It's in the 20-day appeal period, so I keep looking and waiting to see the appeal filed. We also have there's a few projects not been submitted yet, but they're coming soon. One we talked about when Frank was on the call. There's a potential warehouse right down on the other side. Oh, on the same side. I'm sorry, on the same parcel as the billboard that just got approved. So that's good news. And then there's a parcel just north of Auto Part International on Mansfield Ave that we also expect to be coming in very soon, warehouse development. These both have potential good sizes to them. So could be good jobs, could be a great tax base.
Where's the one on Mansfield Ave, Paul?
It is right north of the Auto Part International. Used to be a bird sanctuary there. So it's almost across from where the 40B is going up at.
Okay.
Yeah. So
The one by McDonald's?
Yeah. Yeah.
Any movement on that?
Yep. Yeah. They've recently, they just filed their paperwork to do there are different agreements to ensure affordability of those what are they doing? 15 units. I'm getting drawing 25 units.
I can't remember.
I think it's 25 or 20. It's 20 units. So we're working with town council and their attorney to get those agreements signed and off to the state. So now they're moving forward. And I actually see an email that has come in from their engineer about the building. I don't know what it says yet, but it's coming. They're going to build. I'm confident they're going to build it. These guys have built other affordable housing developments in this region. Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Pennsylvania. So
They had a good proposal, I remember.
yeah, they had a good project. Both were good projects. Both were good, both if they get built. But again, unlike the other 40Bs we just talked about, this one seems to be moving to construction. So those are a couple big ones. And then, you know what, can we let Alyssa? He has
Yes.
good.
Yeah, because I had that up in my email because that happened and we haven't had a meeting. But if Alyssa, are you available to speak?
Yes, hi.
Hi.
Sorry, I'm on my phone and not dressed to speak. But yeah, so we're close to going before the planning board. We just received our provisional license. I think I emailed everybody. That was on January 20th. So we're getting our traffic study done in 3 weeks. And then we're having a kind of a slight difficulty with the landlord and the septic inspection. Originally, they said that they were going to hire someone to conduct their own inspection, but then Ron was away for 2 weeks and he just got back, and then they found out that their person doesn't do Title V, which since we're changing the use, it needs to be a Title V inspection. So not that I've had problems with them, and this may just be that they may not be the best at communicating, but I just had a hard time kind of getting a hold of them. And then I kind of went to the town hall today, not freaking out, but I was a little excited. Paul can say, yeah, just because I hadn't heard from them for a while. And I'm like, well, can I hire someone to do it? Are you going to do it? I'm just not getting through with them. But Paul assured me, and Christian, I believe from the Board of Health, have been really great. And actually my landlord did reach out to the town to get more information. So hopefully he'll be communicating that with me. I'm going to call them again. But that's really only been my main issue. I haven't expressed this to them, but if, the septic needs to be replaced and, they don't have the money, I'll obviously do it at this point because nothing is going to get in my way from stopping. That's how I feel. But I really hope it doesn't get to that point. And I don't know, we haven't done the inspection, so it hasn't passed or failed. But they're being a slightly hesitant, and I'm just trying to guess that may be the reason why. So.
Well, it sounds like you're moving forward. So
Yeah.
a couple of hurdles. If this is, the extent of your hurdle, then you might be in a good position.
It's not that bad. It's not that bad, and it is moving. I just wish it was moving a little quicker, but maybe that's me being a bit too impatient. I just get so excited to get going,
It'll happen. It will.
Yeah. All right.
Paul, I'm sure you gave good counsel on this.
Paul was
And,
great.
Yeah, no, Chris Honor gets the gold star. He got her calm.
Yeah.
She was not nervous, but the good news is it looks like it's coming in. One of the, right now, this time of year, what gets to be a bit of a challenge for any applicant is with the elections coming up in April 30th. My job is to talk to applicants to make sure they know that that's coming, because we don't want a project getting caught up in the middle of an election. So the goal is to get their approval by the planning board, the meeting by the meeting before the 30th, because they are 3 seats up for election, one of which is vacant. We don't know what the other 2 are proposing to do. And I don't want to see Alyssa or anybody else come August 20 or April 26th, when it's the last meeting before the election, and we don't have a decision, or they're forced to make a decision, which might not go their way. So,
Right.
you know, that might be putting all of these projects, some of them might end up delaying because they will want to wait till the first meeting in May. Because if they're submitting by mid-March, it's like, don't do it.
Mhm. Is this issue with the septic and the inspection, is that something to hold her up from meeting with the planning board?
Not necessarily, not necessarily. You know, we do, she does need, or they need to get that inspection done. They could move forward, you know, subject to potentially a condition that, you know, you don't get, you know, don't apply for your building permits until that septic is taken care of, or we don't issue the final, or actually you wouldn't issue the final certificate of occupancy. There may be options in there, but Chris talked to Alyssa about what those options are, and it looks like they're at least getting that inspection going, or, you know, so.
Mhm.
Renee, can I ask a question?
Of course.
Paul, I forgot to ask you this when I saw you in person today, but when would be the latest that we would need to apply with the planning board in order for us to go in front of the current board?
You know what, do you want to talk about that tomorrow?
Yeah,
offline?
I'll send you an
I need my
email.
calendar in front of me to do that, but I think we'd have to figure out, you know, how many meetings realistically do we think it could take? But
Sure.
why don't we, let me make a note to contact you, because I'm actually in the field a lot in the morning, so why don't we figure out I'll email you in the morning and figure out the
Paul, are there many items on the town meeting warrant that the planning board is going to have to weigh in on that can potentially affect that schedule as well?
we have a few small ones, economic development related. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get this note so I don't forget to reach out to her tomorrow. Yeah, so we've had a couple of small items I was going to present to you all at a future meeting, but at our last planning board meeting, they endorsed, supported moving two changes, small changes to our zoning bylaw that really at its heart are there to promote economic development. One, updates our use table by adding uses like life sciences and artisan uses to make sure our bylaw is clear that these uses are allowed and where they're allowed. Because our bylaw is, the way it's written, it's what they call a prohibitive bylaw, which means that if we can't find a use to match up, if someone comes to us and says we want to do this, and we can't find a use that we can even make a connection to, we can't allow it. And it's not, you can't even appeal it because we don't give variances for use. So it gets to be a real challenge. But like with the West Main Street plan that came out, there were recommendations to add uses like artisan manufacturing and uses like that. So we're just adding those to it. We've also added some related to life sciences. Additionally, we're also making a change to the dimensions table, which looks at things like height and setbacks, but it had it actually had a density cap in it of 7 units per building. And we know that there are potentially some projects coming down the pike that are proposing more than that. And that would kill those projects if we left that in there. So it's a small, to us, it's a small change because it's still, you cap by other things. It's not like you're going to get an infinite amount of development on a site, but 7 is an arbitrary number. And, you let other things like your height and setbacks and then parking and stormwater, those all help to place caps on development. We're also looking at sorry, my throat. Making a couple of changes to the dimensions for the village commercial zoning district to promote development of properties on village commercial. For example, the minimum lot size, it did this bizarre thing based on the number of residential units. It greatly added the amount to the minimum square footage. And what we decided to do, what the planning board decided to do was just make it one standard of 10,000 square feet. Instead, it was 18,000. And then if you had a second unit, it goes to 40,000, on and on. And they just said, let's just cap it at 10,000. So, and then they did a couple other things. They reduced the frontage requirements from 120 to 75 feet. So some of this stuff mirrored what we did with Village Center Core, just some small things. It's still not in the league of Village Center Core, but just a couple of things to try to, you know, make some things happen in the village commercial, you know.
So do you anticipate any of that, like the meetings for them to prep for town meeting, that's going to impact your schedule? I mean, you don't have to answer me. I'm throwing it out there, I guess, for your discussion with Alyssa tomorrow.
What do you mean, impact schedule for?
Impact the schedule for applicants coming before the board, right? To be heard before the board can potentially change over.
I'm sorry, regarding the bylaw changes, you mean, or?
Regarding the board's availability to meet.
Oh, I don't expect that. I don't think these items are going to take long. In fact, the planning board itself approved them pretty quickly. There was another change we're proposing, and that is we have an affordability. We actually have an affordability mandate in our bylaw. We have a bylaw that says 20 years ago or 19 years ago in 2003, the town was at about 3% of the subsidized housing inventory. So in response to that, they approved a bylaw that mandates affordable housing gets kicked in if you're creating 6 units, multifamily units at any one time, or creating 6 lots. Now we're at 11%. And so I've put to them, I'm asking for their recommendation on Tuesday, but I'm asking them if they would consider an amendment which says that requirement to trigger affordable housing does not apply when the town is over the 10% threshold. That's the state requirement that we're now exceeding. So we'll see where that goes. But we have a couple of projects being proposed now that would absolutely be affected by this. And there's a lot of ways we're able to we can address affordable housing, I mean, primarily through the 40Bs. As I look back to at this bylaw, it's only been used twice, and it resulted in 6 affordable units in 20 years. So it's hardly a well-used tool. So we're going to see how they feel about that one. And then a couple of these projects, which I don't feel, that I can really talk about them at this point, but they've pulled papers to file a petition for rezoning on a couple of them. Once they do that, then we can tell you about the projects. But yeah, I mean, some of it was driven by that. Some of it was identified by another project that, so I think these are ultimately fairly small changes on what we're proposing. The rezonings probably will be a little bit more of a discussion. But, we're trying, the intent was to try to promote those developments in the types of development we want to see in the right places.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, Paul. So Alyssa, congrats on the provisional license. And it sounds like Paul and Chris are helping out here.
Yes, they've been great. And Paul, again, thank you. And thank you to the EDC for all of your support. I'll continue to keep everybody updated.
Sure. Reach out as needed.
Thank you.
We can help in the freak out too.
I'm a very hyper person, and I'm so passionate about this that sometimes I can't help but my emotions just break through.
It's
So,
good. Good to
yeah.
have the passion. The driver for
Yes.
success.
Thanks.
So Paul, I know Mike's not here, so we can skip item number 4, and we are running to, I think, a 4 minutes remaining meeting.
I can get it done
anything
quickly.
Okay.
I can
Go
get it
for
done
it.
quickly. So the big news, not big news, but we are, I'm excited too. Alyssa she just rubs it off on other people too. But I've started meeting with some of the local businesses on West Main Street about their interest in forming a business association for West Main Street. It's in its infancy. I met with the business owners, with Bog Iron, Bridget's. We also had Steve Hornsby, he's a planning board member, but he has his company. He manages condo associations there in the district. And then I also met with the 2 people, the husband and wife, who bought the 2 residential properties right at the intersection of 123 and 140. They're artists, and they want to create an art studio there. But I asked them, and they were all enthusiastic about starting an effort to try to get some sort of business association. So I'm also looking into seeing how we could hire a consultant. I've been in touch with a woman who's probably one of the preeminent consultants who's helped a number of business associations around the state to form. So I am checking to see if we can use the ARPA funds, the American Rescue Plan Act funding. That's my preference, because we can use that money a lot sooner than applying for the state funds for this fiscal year, which if we were to get it, we don't get it until the fall. So we want to hit it much quicker than that. So that's good news. I'm really optimistic that we can get that going. If we can get a business association or some sort of collaborative going, I think all of the things we've talked about and done for the last 3 or 4 years, from the vision plan to this local rapid recovery plan, can happen. But I think we can optimize it with some type of association, because they're the ones that will create the different objectives they want to achieve. So I've also put in that funding cycle is open. And right now they're taking what they call expressions of interest, which is a summary of what projects we would like to be funding. And so I submitted 2 applications. One is to actually 3. I did put in for that one we just talked about for hiring the consultant, but I'm also putting in for consulting services to help us write a couple of overlay districts that the master plan called for, to promote the types of economic development we want to see in the right locations. So similarly to what you did with marijuana, this might be more targeted, but it's there to try to, like, if we're trying to promote supply chain or life sciences, we could put an overlay district on top of the current zoning that will incentivize development in areas. So think about the DOT property that we rezoned recently. What if we're able to get, industrial plus on there to, really incentivize it? That would be great. And then the other thing I've applied for is they just added a program, which I'm excited about, which is a placemaking program. And one of the things, again, that came out of the master plan and the local rapid recovery plan was helping get a consultant to help us figure out what the placemaking would look like, on what West Main Street could really look like with beautification efforts. I wish that the vision plan we did 3 or 4 years ago did that, but it didn't. And this could be a great you know, this could tell us, where do the street trees go? Where do the benches go? Where do the bike racks? All of those things. So I think it's crucial for us to get the association or a business collaborative going. But if we're also to get funding, it would really also be nice if we can hone in while we're working on forming that association, but also look at the physical elements of that district to see what can be done. We still just don't have a clue. And if we get that in there, that will open us up to shared streets funding, which that'll increase our chances of getting it, which we didn't get a couple years ago. Oh, I'm a minute over. Dang, sorry.
Oh, that was good. Any questions? No, that was an excellent summary, Paul. And the minute is fine. Thank you for providing that. I think it's exciting too. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to hearing more on it. And hey, when you talk about like doing the network, are you just focusing on that one section on West Main? Or are you looking for Norton as a whole?
For now, we're looking at that district, but the beauty of it is the people who get involved with it will decide the geography of it.
Okay.
And the consultant can help, you know, weigh in on that. It probably makes sense to start small. There was concern that they didn't want to become like a chamber of commerce. So at least from a couple of the people who spoke. So, but that boundary will be set as they develop the plan. But again, you know, we have to get the funding available to do it. The good news too is that the woman who wrote who's we're looking to hire, she wrote a toolkit for the state that's a how-to to create a business association. So I don't want to go at it alone for a few reasons, but one of which is, you know, I always want to bring an expert in, you know, and she's created business improvement districts, which is a huge undertaking, involves the legislature and all that. So, we'll, you know, I'm going to keep talking to Mike about using ARPA funds for it. I know we're still waiting to get some clarification on the ARPA funds, but I don't think that's a big financial hit. You know, it's a consultant one, so it's probably $30,000. So I think the payoff would be huge though for the town.
Excellent. Thank you. Any questions or comments to share?
I heard that they're going to put in a new tasty bagels at the side of the former Dunkin's on West Main and Freeman Street. That's going to be a good sign.
Yep, very much so, Peter. Thank you. Okay. Anything else to discuss? Go ahead, Laura.
Sorry. Yeah, I kind of wanted to talk about exit 10.
Sure.
So a couple of select board meetings ago, kind of sprung on everybody that there's been a significant change, I guess, to their business plan. And they're going to need to revise their host community agreement again. And
they're going to amend the host community agreement to change ownership.
Yeah. You know, I understand the need to amend the first one due to the loss of their location, which, you know, at some point, I think we should probably also talk about exactly what happened there. But it sounds like what they're proposing is kind of a wholesale change in their business plan, kind of from top to bottom, ownership, partnership. And now we've got the change in location. And I'm wondering, should we discuss what constitutes a material enough change in the business plan that we recommended before they have to come back to EDC?
So we certainly can, but I think we need to put that on as an agenda topic. I don't think that's something that we can talk to now because we didn't put it on the meeting. But I think that's fine. I don't think there's any problem in having that discussion, but you know, as the commission knows, once the board signs the HCA, it's a board issue. So if there are opinions or recommendations, I think that's fine. I mean, in this case, you mentioned it was sprung upon the board, but it wasn't. We had actually been in communication for several weeks on it. So there's nothing that's been surprising. They've kept myself and Mike in the loop pretty much the entire time. We can certainly talk. I know you mentioned talking about their location more. If you want to do that, we probably want to bring in Alex to have that discussion, because that was between him and Condyne, not anything the town had.
No,
dealings with.
my concerns are more with Condyne. And the fact that, I did go back and look at their business plan, and they're supposed to be, if everything went according to plan, exit 10 was going to be opening in Blue Star Park, February of 2022, which is now. I'd like to know what transpired to get that letter of intent pulled, and why there is no further development of the phase 1 retail at Blue Star.
Sure.
Why are we looking at it? What should we be paying more attention to that? Because at this point, we should be celebrating the opening of a retail shop, and there is literally nothing there.
Yeah. No, I don't mind reaching out to Jeff, have him come to one of our meetings.
Okay.
You want to shoot for the next one if we can get him?
Sure.
Okay. And Paul, do you typically talk to Jeff or no?
Yeah, I mean, not regularly, but
Okay. I just didn't know if you talk to him regularly to mention it, but I don't mind reaching out. I'll give him a jingle or shoot him an email. Let me just write myself a note. Okay. Laura, do you want to talk about I know we were going to talk, maybe for the next agenda item too, we were going to talk about a process overall, right? Not just in because we had a defined process for the retailers, right? That we kind of, I don't want to say implemented, but we followed for the review with the other establishments that came to us. So do we want to talk about that too? And kind of change. I think that you had mentioned, and this is going to go back months, but if I remember correctly, you had mentioned leveraging that process for any type of marijuana establishment, right? Or something similar, maybe not as defined.
Yeah, I'll have to go back to it is, yes. And I'm sure I was all fired up about it at the time, and don't ask me to remember it at 9 o'clock months later.
No, it's only 8:38. 8:38.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, come
yeah,
back to me. If you want to put something on, I can put on the agenda and we can have a discussion. I mean, there's nothing that's come before the town in that regard. Like I've had several emails on, do we have additional retail licenses, and then like some research people reaching out about what we have.
Yeah. I think it was more, we need a process on how to handle marijuana, non-retail marijuana applicants.
Yeah. Okay. So if you want to take a look at your notes and then just confirm with me whether or not you want to have a discussion on next meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else? As I mentioned, I'm going to try to get Brianne to join us next meeting for Goat City. And if we can, Paul, you'll send me the contacts for Bagels and Cream, and we'll try to get them on too. Okay, excellent. If there's nothing else to be discussed, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Sandy?
Yes.
Denise?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Michael?
Aye.
And Cody?
Yes.
Because you're here. Excellent. Okay, we are adjourned at 8:40 p.m. Thank you everyone for coming in the discussion with our guests and on the other items as well. Appreciate the
Good night,
time.
everyone.
Happy New
Good
Year.
night.
I know it's February, but it's our first meeting. And we're set to meet again on February 23rd.
Good night, Renee and the gang.
Thank you.
Good night.
Hi, Peter.
Thank you. Good
Night,
night.
Alyssa.